purpose and according to the serial number which is being mentioned over there in our brochure already in the published abstract volume. The first speaker is going to be uh, Ananya Pal, Srimati Ananya Pal, ex-student, Assam University, Silchar, Assam, and her paper's title is Literature and its Benefaction to make sense of pandemic. She is our first speaker, first presenter. She is going to be. We are roughly getting 2 hours time, so naturally we will keep our papers, our presentations, very tightly within because time constraint is a big thing. So therefore, we will keep our papers tightly within 12 to 13 minutes, at the most 15 minutes. At the end of 12 to 13 minutes, I will give you a call. Though this is quite unnecessary, and I don't like to make that kind of an intrusion into the process of presentation of every presenter, but I have to do that thing. I am helpless. I cannot help it. You understand that very much. And so therefore, I also will be hoping for your accommodation in that sense. So I will be giving a call to you or make a sound or whatever it is by 12 to 13 minutes, and please try to keep these presentations, the length of the presentations, wrap it up within 14 to 15 minutes. Thank you very much. This is a general instruction for everybody. We will try our level best to abide by these time rules, because time is another thing which is being, the pandemic has taken its heavy toll upon time, which was linear, has almost become a pulp time. It's being squeezed into a pulp time. It is not anymore a linear time in our lives. Our first speaker is Ananya Pal, Srimati Ananya Pal. Please switch over to. I'm switching over to Ananya Pal.
Sir, am I audible? Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, distinctly. There is no problem.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, good afternoon to one and all present over here. My name is Ananya Pal, and I would like to thank, first of all, the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present my paper. And my topic is Literature and its Benefaction to Make a Sense of Pandemic. So, pandemic is a mass destructor, as we all know. It has always resulted in mass loss of human lives. Pandemics like cholera, smallpox have resulted in the wide destruction of human lives and left the generation in scared. Unlike history and other statistical facts, literature helps us to know the pandemic situation in a more compassionate manner, which consoles us at times of need. As it was said by Harish Tiwari, who taught English literature at Delhi University, literature regards each individual with compassion and goes deeper than what statistics or other historical records can tell us. Literature may not explain away or fight off things such as pandemics, even as modern science sometimes can't, but it does become a source of consolation, a way of sharing our common humanist concerns, and in its own way provides the deepest and the most insightful record of the events. So, the first thing that is common in the pandemic situation is that pandemics is similar across geographic and locations and time, and it is not because of the presence of the germs or the virus, but that the human response follows the same pattern. All the three literary works that I'll be discussing in a while inform us that the initial human response to the outbreak is typically one of denial. Furthermore, our response to a pandemic tends to be slow. As now we are confined within the four walls of our homes under lockdown in the wake of COVID-19, literature helps break the barriers connecting us across historical periods and time zones with others who have experienced similar tragedies. More importantly, literature shows us that we have a lot in common with others who are from distant lands and different times, encouraging us to appreciate the fact that we are not the only ones who are dealing with the worldwide devastation brought by the pandemic. So now I will briefly examine three highly influential literary works on pandemics. The first one is Rabindranath Tagore's poem Puratan Britto, The second one is Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's Anandamot, and the third one is Vibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay's Oshoni Sanket. So the long poem of Rabindranath Tagore, Puratan Britto, tells us the aching story of a house help who nurses his master to health but succumbs to smallpox. The poem endures in popularity as its YouTube indicates because it has over 3.2 lakh million views. So, similarly, it can be said that the smallpox, which originated in ancient times, killed around 300 million people in the 20th century. On December 13, 2019, the World Health Organization celebrated 40 years of eradication of smallpox. Through this poem, we can correlate the difficulties faced by the zamindar who was ignored by his relatives, friends, and other close ones. But the loyal servant died serving his master, thus explaining how the pandemic made us helpless and caused a lot of deaths and thus just making us numb spectators. Similarly, in Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's Anandamot, we can get to know about Mohendra and Kolyani who were leading a peaceful life, but as the pandemic approached, there was no distinction between the rich and the poor, and all of them were forced to leave the village in search of either food and water. Though Chiattorer Monantor is very popular and the statistical facts and numbers help us to know the number of deaths, but it is only the literature through which we could know about the various turmoils faced by the particular family which is helpful to us to develop a more humanistic insight. Similarly, in Vibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay's Oshoni Sanket, the story helps us to understand about Gangacharan and his wife and the tragedies they faced in the year 1943. Though at the very outset they used to get things from village people as a sign of gratitude, with due course of time it is seen that as the war was approaching, the people started starving and the young girls started to sell themselves just for the sake of rice. Moreover, Gangacharan's wife also started to go with the village people to bring wild potatoes and also work as domestic help, pointing towards the fact that the tragedy that was brought both rich and poor together, while the nature was still beautiful and serene. Thus, to conclude, it can be said that at the present situation, it is visible that the people were first slow and thereof denial. They did not give much attention to the pandemic at the outset of COVID-19. But with the gradual course of time, they got to learn how to adapt themselves with the changing situation. The facts and the figures, as shown to us, help us to know the consequences of the pandemic only. But what helps us to know the plight of the family and the way they fought the pandemic is the literature which gives us a more humanistic approach. It provides us the deepest and the most insightful record of the past. The reading list of pandemic literature offers something in the way of an uncertain comfort and a guide for what happens next. This means when we are combating COVID-19, we simply cannot think only of ourselves, but we must seriously ponder how our actions will affect others, as it is seen in Oshoni Sanket that the village girl that sold herself for rice managed to save Gangacharan's wife from that wicked man. If history illustrates the effect of pandemics on the whole communities, then literature gives us a more intimate view. Thus, when we consider the changes, both short and long term, that the coronavirus might bring for us, we should remember that the world we know today was shaped by the pandemics of the past. This realization can help us to cope with the difficulties. Thank you, sir. Sir, thank you.
Thank you, Ananna. That was though very brief because I was expecting that it will take some more time, but it's okay. Fine. Thank you. And our next presenter will be, just let me check out the list. It was a good paper, of course. I will, if time permits, I will definitely uh, go to relate my observations on the paper if the time permits. But before that, I am keeping that at hold, on hold of this. Our next presenter would have been Mr. Joyanto Mondol, but I don't know whether he is present or not. Perhaps not. In that case, our next presenter is going to be among the present participants, Mr. Shayantan Pal Choudhury, and his topic is COVID-19 and the echo of the romantic call. So, Mr. Shayantan Pal Choudhury, it's now over to you. You can present your paper. And please, one more thing I forgot to mention is that whenever somebody is presenting something as it is being done on this virtual media, it is imperative that we are switching on both our microphone and our camera. Only the presenter, always, whoever is talking, will always please keep these things in an unmute position, the camera and the mic. Thank you. We want to see our speakers. Thank you, Shantan. Please proceed.
Hello. Can you see me?
Yeah.
I'm not being able to see me here.
Yes, I can see you. Everybody can see you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The title of my paper is COVID-19 Situation and the Echo of the Romantic Call. I'm very much related to literature in this paper of mine. And before presenting my paper, I should prepare my PPT. Present now and then entire screen. Can you see my presentation? Yes.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. I'm an assistant teacher in Shiliguri Borodaganta Vidyapith now, and I'm very happy to be a part of this webinar organized by the Mainakuri College, where I worked for 4 long years. COVID-19 situation has introduced not only the words and phrases like quarantine, physical and social isolation, and lockdown to our daily lives, but the actual meaning attached to the words also. Without any proper medication, we have only quarantine, isolation, and lockdown to save many lives in the pandemic caused by coronavirus. In this paper, I am not going into the discussion of how this period has threatened our regular social lifestyle, but my only endeavor is to show how we want to escape from this period to get mental peace and to feel connected to the whole world. But can we really escape from this time? This question is unanswerable even now. I am going back to the Romantic period in England, or precisely in English literature that started in the last half of the 18th century and continued till the first half of the 19th century, along with the French Revolution. And as we know that the Industrial Revolution was also growing at that time. Though the stage of the Romantic period was being decorated for a few decades before the publication of the Lyrical Ballads in 1798 and the preface to the Lyrical Ballads in 1800, the true essence of returning to nature began when the revolution was going on and Wordsworth came back to England watching the ghastliness of the revolution. Or we can say that he fled from other parts of like from France or Germany, where he was traveling in those days. And he watched the ghastliness of the revolution, French Revolution. He was looking for a solace that could erase the memory of the bloodshed that the revolution had caused, and he found it in nature. To all the Romantic poets, Rousseau's call, "Return to nature," had become the tagline. They often wanted to flee from their age, but just then the word forlorn tolled like a bell, and they returned to their time with a hope of a new world, towards a new society where they could get peace. The spread of coronavirus has shown its deadly nature to almost all the parts of the world today. And since then, people have been instructed to choose quarantine and isolation, both physical and social isolation, as the only way to get rid of the devastating nature of the virus. We have already seen the impact of this coronavirus, the deadly, the fatal impact of this coronavirus in many parts of the world. Many people staying outside are returning to home, and the government is also helping them to come back to their home. In home, isolated from the world outside or connected only through the social media, people have found nature as the only place that can supply mental peace to them. Obviously, during the pandemic and due to the long quarantine and lockdown period, the earth has gained a lower level of pollution. We have seen the media coverages are also there. People have felt deeply the necessity of a pollution-free environment, and during the forced isolation period, they have found that the only medium to keep their mental health in a sound condition, nature, including the vast fields, trees, the rivers, open sky, or singing birds in the rural areas, and or our open sky, some plants and birds songs in the urban localities is the only connection with the outer world. Foster's only connect goes back to the romantic's nature. But many people started to blame human civilization as the cause of the pandemic and wish to go back to the period before the human civilization started to develop. Had that been the reason, can we not conclude with the deduction that all the viruses and bacteria are the result of human civilization, its development, and in total, the devastation of environmental balance caused by human development? I don't know the answer to it, but I have seen that many people always are blaming even now the human civilization, human activities. Though we know that the human activities are always not very much eco-friendly, but still we cannot blame that the human activities and our development, the civilization, human civilization, could be the cause of the viruses and the bacteria. If so, then all the viruses and all the bacteria would be the cause of human activities. I don't know the result of it. Following Blake, we can say that the development of our civilization rests on the dualism of nature and culture. Both nature and culture together has become the cause of our sustainable development. We cannot reject any one of them if we want to progress. We can escape for a short period from the realities that we are facing in our everyday life during this pandemic situation. But again, we have to come back to our daily life of isolation as it has been going on now without having any clear idea of where we are heading to. We don't know what would be the result or when we will be free again. Today, when we are roaming from this room to that, we have only open nature standing beside us to keep us feel alive amidst its greenery of trees and the blue in the sky. Is it not the echo of the same romantic call that the Romantics heard during the French Revolution? I have found the similarity as the role that the French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, the growing of industries, that caused the Romantics, that became very tormenting to the Romantics, as we can hear from Wordsworth, that the world is too much with us, and they returned to nature. They discovered nature in their own ways, the Romantic poets. The same way, when we are in quarantine, we are in our rooms. We cannot go out. We cannot talk to other people. We cannot touch other people, and we are locked down in our own houses. We have only open sky and the greeneries, the trees, the bird songs. When the world is too much with us, we flee from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead, as John Keats has said in one of his sonnets. And then again, we come back to the realities, accepting the dualism of nature and culture. And then, after going away from these realities, after fleeing away from these realities of COVID 19 or the pandemic, we are coming back to our realities with the hope that someday it will be eradicated and we will get a new society. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shantan. That was a kind of a different thing, and it's a unique take of Shantan to take us back to that romantic feeling, etc. However, I will come back to it afterwards, if
Thank you.
possible. And that was a good paper. Thank you. Thank you. At least Shantan was articulate very much, and Ananya too. Our next presenter will be Professor Shubir Ghosh, Assistant Professor, Department of Bengali from Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. And his paper is titled as, this is a paper in Bengali, and the paper is titled as ঔপনিবেশিক ভারতবর্ষে মন্বন্তর ও মহামারী colon বাংলা সাহিত্যে তার প্রক্ষেপ. If loosely translated, then it stands as for our non-Bengali speaking audience, of course. And this translated, it stands as famine and epidemic in the pre-colonial India and their projection in Bengali literature. So this is very much famine and epidemic, because I am unable to translate this Mahamari into pandemic. Pandemic is something different, as I have always found it. So this is Professor Shubir Ghosh. And so please proceed on with your presentation. We are eager to listen to you. Switching over to Professor Shubir Ghosh. Hello, Professor Ghosh.
I think Subir Ghosh is not present here right now.
Perhaps there is a glitch in the connection. কোনো একটা সমস্যা হয়েছে। In that case, shall we proceed on to either next
obviously
presenter?
next. Yeah.
Well, perhaps there is a glitch or something like that, or there is a disconnection. Problem of disconnection with Professor Shubir Ghosh. Our next presenter is going to be Mr. Sujan Saha, research scholar, Cotton University, Guwahati, Assam. And his paper reads, the title of the paper reads, Monnantare Mrityu, Death in the time of pandemic or epidemic or whatever it is. And বিভূতিভূষণ বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়ের অশনি সংকেত উপন্যাস অবলম্বনে আলোচনা. This is kind of a close reading of বিভূতিভূষণ বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়ের famous novel অশনি সংকেত. With regard to that, Sujan Saha is going to discuss the idea of death in pandemic. Sujan Saha, please.
Sir, নমস্কার স্যার।
নমস্কার, প্লিজ
শুরু করছি। শোনা যাচ্ছে স্যার?
একদম ডিস্টিংক্টলি।
ঠিক আছে। আমার আলোচ্য বিষয় মন্বন্তরে মৃত্যু, বিভূতিভূষণ বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়ের অশনি সংকেত উপন্যাস অবলম্বনে আলোচনা। আমার পূর্বে প্রথম যে বক্তা ছিলেন অনন্যা পাল, তিনি অশনি সংকেত উপন্যাসের অনেকটাই আলোচনা করেছেন। যাই হোক, আমরা এখন ভয়ঙ্কর এক মহামারীর মধ্য দিয়ে চলেছি, যে করোনা ভাইরাস নামক মহামারী। সেই মহামারী সমগ্র পৃথিবী আজ আতঙ্কগ্রস্ত। কিন্তু আজ থেকে প্রায় ৮০ বছর পূর্বে পৃথিবীতে তখন দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধ চলছে। এর আঁচ এসে পড়েছে ভারতবর্ষেও। আর এই ভারতবর্ষ তখন ব্রিটিশ শাসনাধীন। আর দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধ সমকালে ভারতবর্ষের বঙ্গদেশে দুর্ভিক্ষের কবলে পড়ে প্রায় 30 থেকে 35 লক্ষ মানুষ অকালে ঝরে গিয়েছিল। 1942-43 খ্রিস্টাব্দ বা 1350 বঙ্গাব্দে এই মর্মান্তিক ঘটনা ঘটেছিল। এর নামকরণ করা হয়েছিল 50-এর মন্বন্তর। পূর্বে আমরা 76-এর মন্বন্তরের কথা শুনেছি, কিন্তু সেই মন্বন্তর পুরোপুরি ছিল প্রাকৃতিক।
সুজন বাবু, একটু একটা
বলুন।
কাজ করা যাবে, একটু ভিডিওটা অন করা যাবে, বিকজ দ্যাট উইল ন্যাচারালি হেল্প আস টু কমিউনিকেট ইন এ বেটার ওয়ে।
দেখছি স্যার।
ভিডিওটা কোথায় off? I'm not liking to interrupt this session, but still ভিডিওটা অন থাকলে সুবিধা
হবে স্যার?
একদম একদম ঠিক আছে, ইটস ওকে, ফাইন।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। শুধুমাত্র না খেতে পেয়ে প্রায় লক্ষ লক্ষ মানুষের মৃত্যু হয়েছিল। সাহিত্যিকেরা গল্প, উপন্যাস, নাটক, ছড়া, গান, প্রবন্ধ ইত্যাদির মধ্য দিয়ে সেই দুর্বিষহ মর্মান্তিক ঘটনা তুলে এনেছেন তাদের লেখনীর মধ্য দিয়ে। 1350-এর মন্বন্তর ছিল সম্পূর্ণরূপে মনুষ্য সৃষ্ট। সে সময় ভারতবর্ষ ছিল ব্রিটিশ শাসনাধীন, আর এই ব্রিটিশ শাসক সরকারের কিছু নীতি নির্ধারণের ফলে বঙ্গদেশের লক্ষ লক্ষ মানুষ মৃত্যু মুখে পতিত হয়েছিল। এই মন্বন্তরের কারণ স্বরূপ লেখকেরা যা তুলে ধরেছেন সেগুলো হলো দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধকালীন ব্রিটিশ সরকারের পোড়ামাটি নীতি, নৌকা, সাইকেল ধ্বংস করা, সৈন্যবাহিনীর প্রয়োজনে জোর করে কৃষকদের ফসল কেড়ে দেওয়া, গ্রামের মানুষদের বাড়িগুলো দখল করা, যুদ্ধের প্রয়োজনে সেনারা সেখানে অস্থায়ীভাবে থাকবে বলে সেই বাড়িগুলো তারা কেড়ে নিয়েছিল। দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধে জাপান ইংরেজ যুদ্ধ ও বোমা বর্ষণ, এই সময় কালোবাজারির ফলে সমস্ত খাদ্যদ্রব্য দোকানদার মহাজনরা লুকিয়ে ফেলেছিল এবং বেশি দরে বিক্রি করেছিল, যা সাধারণ মানুষের নাগালের বাইরে চলে গিয়েছিল। সে সময় কমিউনিস্ট পার্টি একটা ভূমিকা ছিল, তারা ইংরেজদের তোষণ করে চলেছিলেন। আর এই যে বঙ্গদেশে এত বড় এক মহামারী ঘটেছিল, সেই সময় অস্ট্রেলিয়া থেকে প্রচুর পরিমাণে খাদ্য ভর্তি জাহাজগুলো ভারত মহাসাগর হয়ে ভারতবর্ষের পাশ দিয়ে চলে গেছিল ইংল্যান্ডে, কিন্তু সেই সময় তারা এই ভারতবর্ষের যে মন্বন্তর কবলিত এলাকা সেখানে তারা খাদ্যদ্রব্য পৌঁছে দেয়নি। সেই সময় বার্মা, মায়ানমার থেকে চাল রপ্তানি হতো ভারতে, কিন্তু জাপানিরা সেই বার্মাতে যখন বোমা ফেলেছিল সেই সময় সেখানকার ভারতীয়রা পালিয়ে এসেছিল কলকাতায়। আবার কলকাতাতেও আমরা দেখেছি জাপানিরা বোমা বর্ষণ করেছে। সেই জন্য কলকাতার মানুষ প্রাণে বাঁচার জন্য কলকাতা ছেড়ে এক অজানা উদ্দেশ্যে যাত্রা করেছে। এই যে স্থায়ী আশ্রয় হারানো মানুষ, আশ্রয় হারিয়ে মানুষ আজ নিঃস্ব হয়ে পড়েছিল, সেই সময় তারা তাদের যে সম্পত্তি ছিল, জমানো সম্পত্তি সমস্ত বিক্রি করে দিয়েও নিজেরা নিজেদের প্রাণকে বাঁচাতে পারেনি। এই সময় পুরোপুরি মনুষ্য সৃষ্ট ছিল না, প্রাকৃতিক কারণও ছিল। আমরা এবছর করোনা আতঙ্কে মানুষ যখন দুর্বিষহ জীবন যাপন করছে, ঠিক সেই সময়ই আমফান নামে এক ঘূর্ণিঝড় 24 পরগনা, কলকাতা সহ রাজ্যের বিভিন্ন জেলায় ভীষণ ক্ষতি করে। ঠিক তেমনি দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধকালীন পরিস্থিতিতে 1350 বঙ্গাব্দে মেদিনীপুর সহ পূর্ববঙ্গে ভীষণ সাইক্লোনে ফসল নষ্ট হয়ে গেছিল এবং ঘরবাড়ি সমস্ত কিছু তছনছ করে দিয়েছিল। মানুষ খেতে না পেরে কলকাতা শহরে এসেছিল বেঁচে থাকার জন্য, কিন্তু এত বড় শহর শুধু তখন মৃত্যুই দেখেছিল। সেই 50-এর মন্বন্তরে প্রেক্ষিতে রচিত চরম বাস্তবধর্মী রচনা হলো বিভূতিভূষণের অশনি সংকেত উপন্যাস। উপন্যাসটি আলোচনা করলে আমরা দেখব উপন্যাসের কুশীলবরা কিভাবে ধীরে ধীরে মৃত্যু মুখে অগ্রসর হচ্ছে, রোগের কারণেই নয়, শুধুমাত্র না খেতে পেরে। যদিও সমগ্র উপন্যাসে একটি মাত্র মৃত্যুই ঘটেছে, কিন্তু উপন্যাসের খারাপ একটি সংকেত দিয়েছেন এই মৃত্যুর মধ্য দিয়ে লেখক। উপন্যাসটি আবর্তিত হয়েছে গঙ্গাচরণ পণ্ডিতের পরিবারকে কেন্দ্র করে। এরা পূর্বে ছিল হরিহরপুর ও ভাতশালা গ্রামে, কিন্তু সেখানে তারা খুব কষ্টে জীবনযাপন করেছিল। এরপর তাদের আশ্রয়স্থল হয়েছিল নতুন গাঁয়ে। কাপালি ও গোয়ালারা এখানে বাস করত। এই গায়ে গঙ্গাচরণ যজমান ও শিক্ষকতা করে যা উপার্জন করত তাতে তাদের সংসার সচ্ছলভাবে চলে যাচ্ছিল। তিনি মাঝে মধ্যে চিকিৎসারও পরামর্শ দিতেন। এই গ্রামে এক ঘর মাত্র ব্রাহ্মণ পরিবার। তাদের ব্যবহারে গ্রামে এরা সকলের প্রিয় হয়ে উঠেছিল। ক্ষেতের ফসল থেকে শুরু করে খেজুরের রস সবকিছুই গ্রামের মানুষ এদের দিয়ে যেত। এরা বাড়িতেও যৎসামান্য সবজি চাষ করত। উপন্যাসটিতে আমরা দেখতে পারি একবার কলেরার প্রাদুর্ভাব ঘটেছিল। সে সময় গঙ্গাচরণ পণ্ডিত অক্লান্ত পরিশ্রম করে কিছুটা বিদ্যার জোরে এই রোগকে বাগে আনতে পেরেছিলেন। কিন্তু এরপর যে মহারোগের প্রাদুর্ভাব ঘটে তা থেকে মানুষ সহজেই নিস্তার পায় না। এ রোগ হলো খাদ্য সংকট। বাজারে চালের দর হু হু করে বাড়তে থাকে। মানুষ ঘরের শেষ সম্বলটুকু বিক্রি করে দিয়েও চাল কেনার চেষ্টা করে, কিন্তু একসময় বাজার থেকে চাল উধাও হয়ে যায়। পচা চালও বেশি দরে কিনতে চায়, কিন্তু তাও দুর্মূল্য হয়ে ওঠে। বৈশাখে যে চাল 6 টাকায় পাওয়া যেত তা ফাল্গুনে 9 টাকা মন হয়। মানুষ ধীরে ধীরে হিংস্র হয়ে উঠতে থাকে। প্রাণ বাঁচানোর জন্য তারা বাজারের দোকানে চুরি করতেও পিছপা হয় না। পাঁচুকুণ্ডুর চালের দোকান লুট করে অসহায় নিরন্ন মানুষগুলো। তাদের গ্রামে উড়ো খবর আসে দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধের। মেদিনীপুর না সিঙ্গাপুর কোথায় যেন যুদ্ধ লেগেছে, ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি। কৃষকেরা তাদের সঞ্চিত ধান স্বল্প বেশি দামে বিক্রি করে দিয়েছিল। তারা ভেবেছিল কিছুদিন পরে ফসল উঠে এলে সব ঠিক হয়ে যাবে। তারা ভাবতেও পারেনি তাদের এই মহা মন্বন্তরের সম্মুখীন হতে হবে। এদের বাদে অন্য পেশার যে সমস্ত লোকজন ছিলেন, স্বর্ণকার বা অন্যান্য যারা দোকানদার ছিলেন, তাদের দুর্গতি তো আরো চরমে উঠেছিল। আমরা লক্ষ্য করি ব্রাহ্মণ পণ্ডিত দীনু ভট্টাচার্য ও দুর্গা ভট্টাচার্য নাম না খেতে পেরে আশ্রয় নিয়েছিলেন গঙ্গাচরণ পণ্ডিতের বাড়িতে। গঙ্গাচরণের স্ত্রী অনঙ্গ বউ অন্যের বাড়ি ধান বেনে অল্প চাল নিয়ে আসে, আর গঙ্গাচরণ পণ্ডিত গ্রামান্তর ঘুরে চাল সংগ্রহ করতে বেরোয়। গ্রামের মানুষগুলো খেতে না পেরে ভিক্ষাপাত্র হাতে তুলে নিয়েছিল। মোটা গুমোচ কেলে ধানের চালও বাজারে অমিল। এমনি চালের দর 24 টাকা মন দাঁড়িয়েছিল। পচা আটা সংগ্রহ করছে মানুষ প্রাণটাকে জিইয়ে রাখার জন্য। বাজারে তেলের অভাব। গ্রামের ধনী ব্যক্তি বিশ্বেশ মশাই, যিনি আপদে বিপদে গঙ্গাচরণকে ধান ও অন্যান্য জিনিস দিয়ে সাহায্য করেছেন, গোলা ভর্তি তাদের ধান আজ নেই, কোথায় লুকিয়ে ফেলেছেন। গ্রামের মানুষ দিনের বেলা চাল চেয়ে যখন বিফল হয়, রাতের বেলা তারা বিশেষ মশাইকে আক্রমণ করে মাথা ফাটিয়ে দেয়। সে তার শ্বশুর বাড়িতে আশ্রয় নিয়েছিল। অনঙ্গ, তার 2 ছেলে হাবু, পটলা যখন বাড়িতে দুদিন না খেয়ে থাকে, তখন গঙ্গাচরণ চালের জোগাড়ে বের হয়। শঙ্করপুরে নিবারণ ঘোষের বাড়িতে তাকে রান্না করে খেতে বললেও তারা বলে যে তাকে চাল দিতে পারবে না। ওদিকে মানুষ পুকুর থেকে গেরি গুগলি শামুক খেয়ে জীবনটাকে টিকিয়ে রাখতে চায়। সেই সময় ফেরার সময় গঙ্গাচরণ এক বাসনের দোকানে খবর নিয়ে জানতে পারে এদিককার মানুষ শুধু কলাই সেদ্ধ খেয়েই বেঁচে রয়েছে। নতুন গায়ে, যে গায়ে অনঙ্গ এবং গঙ্গাচরণরা থাকতো, সেই গায়েও মানুষও কচু শাক খেত এবং অন্যান্য শাক খেত, কিন্তু শেষ পর্যন্ত সেগুলোও শেষ হয়ে যায়। তারাও গেরি গুগলি খেতে বাধ্য হয়। মুচিপাড়ার মতি খবর দেয় যে মুচিপাড়ার সমস্ত লোক যেন কোথায় চলে গেছে, অর্থাৎ প্রাণ বাঁচাতে তারা শহরমুখী হয়েছে। মতি ও কাপালি বইয়ের সঙ্গে অনঙ্গ মেটে আলু সংগ্রহ করতে জঙ্গলে যায়। শাক পাতা যা পারে তুলে আনে, সেদ্ধ খেয়ে বেঁচে থাকতে। কাপালি বউ চাল জোগাড় করতে দেহ ব্যবসা করে। ইটখোলায় যার কাছে যায় টাকা সংগ্রহ করতে, না, যদুর কাছে সে টাকা সংগ্রহ করতে যায়। নোংরা ভাবে উপার্জিত অর্থ দিয়ে কেনা চাল যখন কাপালি বউ অনঙ্গ বউকে দিতে চায়, তখন অনঙ্গ বউ তা ফিরিয়ে দেয়। সে নিজের গয়না বিক্রি করে চাল সংগ্রহ করতে চেয়েছে। এদিকে গঙ্গাচরণ যজমান এবং পাঠশালা ছাত্র পড়িয়ে তিনি সংসার পরিচালনা করছিলেন। সেই পাঠশালা আজ বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে। দুর্গা পণ্ডিত একটি স্কুলে চাকরি করতেন, তার চাকরি চলে যায়। তিনি উপায়ান্তর না দেখে গঙ্গাচরণের বাড়িতে সপরিবারে আশ্রয় নিয়েছেন, যদি প্রাণটুকু জিয়ে রাখতে পারেন। মুচিপাড়ার মতি বাঁচার জন্য আশ্রয় নিয়েছিল গঙ্গাচরণের বাড়িতে, কিন্তু শেষ পর্যন্ত তার জ্বর ও দীর্ঘদিন অনাহারে থাকার ফলে সে ধীরে ধীরে মৃত্যুর মুখে ঢলে পড়ে। আর এই একটি মাত্র মৃত্যুই উপন্যাসে ইঙ্গিত দিয়ে যায় মৃত্যুর মহা মিছিলের। ধন্যবাদ স্যার, শেষ করছি।
অনেক ধন্যবাদ সুজন, আপনি ভালো থাকুন। That was a good read with lots of textual references. And once again, thank you to Sujan Shaha. Now we will be listening to our next presenter, Abhishek Poddar from Department of Political Science, Presidency University, Kolkata. And his paper's title is Pandemic, the Fourth Estate and the Public Sphere, a critical estimate of the interface. I look forward to this paper, especially because when going through the abstract, I noticed there is a sighting of Habermas out there. Now, Jürgen Habermas is one of my personal favorites. So let us see how Abhishek is uh, formulating his argument with the help of Habermas. Abhishek Poddar. I suppose he is present.
Can you see me, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm specially going to talk about the media and its role in the Indian society. The spread of COVID-19 has proved deadly, and this is a very challenging time for the union as well as the state government. In such situation of crisis, journalism has a great role to play in a democracy. As it has been ideally visualized as a platform of for objective information and critical rational discourse, thus, the health of media in a country can be examined in the time of crisis. According to the famous German philosopher Habermas, the public sphere is a sphere where private individuals discuss public matters, a space which mediates between the state and the society. The public sphere has a potential influence over power by formatting a critical consensus which produces a coherent public opinion and by making the state accountable to its denizens. In the media theory, there is a long-running debate over the ways in which media not only disseminate elite but also influence the formation, expression and consumption of public opinion. In a democracy, public involvement is an important issue, and the debate over political involvement and communication has recently focused on the notion of citizenship. And one aspect of this concern is with the notion of institutionally guaranteed platform, in which to express their uh, opinions and to question established power. Uh, okay. And one aspect of this concern with the notion of the public sphere. If the citizenry is to play a role in democracy, then it needs to access an institutionally guaranteed platform in which to express their opinions and to question established power. We can say the media now constitutes the major forum for public communication, political communication. Thus, the debate about public involvement of citizens in political communication leads to the question about the media as a public sphere, where the relation between established power and the citizens takes place. Habermas argued that how the media developed over the time, the public service ethos has been destroyed and replaced by a market model. He takes media as creating a society of private, fragmented individuals for whom it is difficult to form the public rational critical opinion which could oppose established power. But he criticized media for providing a pseudo public sphere which distracts the laity from political action. Being a sphere of public relations and passive spectatorship rather than a genuine public debate. However, this position contains an ideal of public communication which might guarantee the critical consensus which we consider necessary for public participation in democratic political process. There comes the important question: can the media potentially provide sites for public participation, accountability, integration of expert, etc.? Now, let us look into the role of media in this pandemic scenario and how it plays its role in the Indian state. Corporate powers have control over most of the media bodies. Also means that these media houses become an instrument of the ideological apparatus of the state. There are many concerns associated with the COVID-19 crisis, like ill-equipped public health system, policies to combat the pandemic, and the lack of planning and support to vulnerable sections. These issues demand serious examination, but the mainstream media seems to forgetting its democratic role. Journalism is considered to be an ethical communicative practice in a democracy, but corporate ownership subverts the autonomy of the uh, journalism and the freedom of the press. Nowadays, though we have other media platforms which played an important role in disseminating factual and more nuanced information, but these platforms do not have the vast access like the big corporate media platforms are private to. The government is also trying to control the media. The central sought a direction from the Supreme Court on 31st March that no electronic, print media, web portal, or social media shall print or publish or telecast anything without first ascertaining the true factual position from the separate mechanism provided by the central government. These corporate media houses are working more as a tool for spreading propaganda and sensationalism. There are number of media channels which continuously trying to manipulate public opinion in favor of particular political parties or the government. Even in the sudden announcement of the lockdown, where the migrant laborers are the worst affected, in the absence of work and other support in the sites, thousands of laborers wanted to go back homes. The leading media houses shows them as irresponsible and try to blame them instead of showing their problems at the ground level. However, the role of larger media, as observed during the pandemic, is not an overnight shift. For example, we can there is a news 18 among them on the topic of Pakistan, there was 79 on there were 36 debates on praising the government. Net on to. Is in there are Ram Mandir, there's 40, but on the other hand, on economy of India, on employment, education, on healthcare, on public infrastructure, there were no debates held on. And also on the issues of farmers, poverty, women's safety, environment, or more no top news. so the media has been achieved to the one of the in the world between dominant fundamentalism has also shifted from the most of media views and the exclusion of marginalized voices become but they have platforms as well, like social media or the private media or they're trying to job in
There is a problem with the connection, perhaps. Abhishek has gone offline. Can everybody listen to me? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
So there was a connection perhaps on his side, and that is why the
Yeah.
second portion of the presentation was a little disturbed. I couldn't make out anything. Perhaps there is a connection loss. Severe problem with the line. However, let us proceed with the other presenters because there are already other presenters in queue. I suppose Abhishek, if he is again able to reconnect, then we will talk to him afterwards. Our next presenter is going to be Professor Orithro Shu, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, Gyanjyoti College, Shiliguri, West Bengal. And his topic is Campaign on Social Media, Impact of COVID-19. Professor Orithro Shu, are you present?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Carry on, please.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here, sir. From today's perspective, COVID-19, as we all know, is a very important issue throughout the world. This pandemic has changed even the daily life of human beings. The pandemic has affected economy, social, and political communications of countries. Like other countries, India also trying to find other ways to communicate with people, and my present topic will focus particularly on this area. Apart from spreading, the coronavirus disease has already changed the course of Indian politics. The Narendra Modi government has had to indefinitely postpone the door-to-door immunosuppression and profiling of 1.37 billion Indians who are locked in at home, fearing a pandemic and already bearing the brunt of its economic consequences. It is anybody's guess how soon life could go back to bring normal. It could be 2 months or 2 years. For now, COVID-19 has thrown a spanner in the works for the Modi government's Hindutva agenda. In its first year after re-elections, the Bharatiya Janata Party wanted to carry out all its top Hindutva projects, and most of it has been accomplished. The constitutional changes in Jammu and Kashmir, the construction of Ram Mandir in Ajodhya, the chronological CAA, NPR, NRC laws that threaten to strip Indian Muslims of their citizenships. All of these now feel like a distant memory. They belong to the BC period, matlab before coronavirus period. The Modi government likely planned more such Hindutva policies, a population control laws and a uniform civil code. Those are not viable at the moment. After 23rd May 2019, the Modi government had the political capital to put governance and economy on the back burner, even as it paid a price for it in state elections. Now, as Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, is criticized for shifting a statue of Lord Ram amid a lockdown. He can no longer play the Hindutva card to silence his critics, like waking up screaming in the middle of nightmare. COVID-19 has rudely brought governance and economy back on the center stage. My next point, obviously, is crisis in this opportunity. The word crisis comes from the Greek crisis, which originally means turning point in the disease that change, which indicates recovery or death. COVID-19 is just such a turning point. Nobody knows better than Narendra Modi that crisis is opportunity. Even before the fire in Sabarmati Express train near Godhra, Modi's first crisis was a massive earthquake in Bhuj in 2001. Efficient post-quake relief and reconstruction is alliance with the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha helped a newly appointed Gujarat Chief Minister bolster his image in the BJP and the states at large. And then this was Godhra and the ensuing anti-Muslim riots which helped Modi present himself as a Hindutva icon. COVID-19 is similarly a political opportunity for Narendra Modi, and luck often favors him. If he can bring India out of this crisis relatively less affected than the West, he will be even stronger than he became after 23rd May. He will have a lot more political capital to pursue the Hindutva Bhava agenda and ignore the economic slump. So far, his record of COVID-19 is mixed. He can say he did an early lockdown, not making the mistakes of Britain's Boris Johnson and US Donald Trump. But Modi has been failing on testing and providing protective gear to medical workers. He can say he was early with screening people at airport, but even that had several loopholes and not all incoming travelers screened. And he followed it up with an ill-planned lockdown that is now causing more harm than good. But it's early days, it ought not to be until a few weeks that we can get a sense about whether India ducked the coronavirus or whether the inevitable happens. Meanwhile, the Modi propaganda machinery is already doing its best to keep his voters assured that he is using his supernatural powers to defeat the virus. Next points, obviously, will be a new page of the opposition. If the COVID-19 crisis is a political opportunity for Narendra Modi, it is an even greater opportunity for the opposition. To begin with, the crisis has turned the page of Hindutva. At the least for now, the opposition no longer has the excuse that it is unable to appeal to the majority of voters just because they are being given a regular dose of intoxicated Hindutva Bhava. The people will now test Narendra on 3 counts. Obviously, number 1, response to the pandemic. Number 2, the health infrastructure at large. And obviously, number 3, the states of the Indian economy. On all 3 fronts, the opposition has a big window of opportunity, which will last at least a few weeks, if not a few months. For the most part, the Congress party's response to the COVID-19 crisis has come across as mature. Its opposition constructive. It is criticizing the Modi's government's follies and yet not appearing to the Pavlovian in its criticism. It is coming across as trying to solve a grave problem rather than score political brownie points and bring down Narendra Modi. This is unlike how we have seen the Congress party and indeed the wider opposition respond since Narendra Modi became Prime Minister in 2014, from demonetizations, from launching to GST, NRC. The opposition came across and unsure of its own position, attacking Modi, but unable to find a voice that would appeal to the people. That cognitive dissonance would change if the opposition continues its mature response and remembers that its focus is to convince the masses that it can do a better job of governance than the current dispensation. When Rahul Gandhi suggests a strategy, a different way of dealing with the pandemic, he comes out looking much better than he did with Choukidar Chor Hai. Indeed, Rahul Gandhi can legitimately claim brownie points for warning about the crisis when Modi was partying with Trump at the Motira Stadium in Ahmedabad. While the Congress old guard may think their party's former president needs to go essay on low-level Modi bashing at the time of national crisis, it is a sign of Rahul Gandhi's maturity. And he welcomes an economic package by the government like a constructive opposition leader. This is the right time for Rahul Gandhi give up his angry young man phrase and reconcile with the old guard. He could then benefit from the collective wisdom of the party. For instance, when P. Chidambaram outlines what the Modi government needed to do the fight COVID-19, it helps the Congress present itself as a party that knows about governance. Recently, we have seen on 21st July, Mamata Banerjee, CM of West Bengal, also did an online rally, also organized an online rally from Kalighat to observe Shahid Divas and started 2021 election campaign. Also, we have seen Elections Commission recently. The Elections Commission in India has extended the deadline for seeking comments and suggestions from the political parties on what campaigning will look like during the COVID-19 pandemic. After many parties failed to send their submission by the initial deadline of 31st July, the EC wrote to all recognized national and state level parties to send their suggestion on election campaign and public meeting in the context of COVID-19. But responses from the many parties are still awaited. Why? I don't know. However, election could become much different because of COVID-19. The forthcoming assembly election in Bihar will be the first state polls to be held in the shadow of pandemic. The election promises to be a lot more challenging for the Elections Commission of India and a new experience for political parties, candidate, and most importantly, the voters. The election could set the template for future election. If the virus is still around, then Chief Election Commissioner Sunil Arora is confident of holding the Bihar polls on schedule and in the traditional way, while factoring the needs of social distancing and adherence to the COVID-19 safety protocol, etc. The elections are due in October, November. The term of currently assembly ends of November 29. The Elections Commission planned for Bihar primary, including restricting the numbers of voters per booth, which means more polling stations will be held. The elections campaign too will be the most online for the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Bihar had around 73,000 polling booths with a maximum of 1,500 voters per booth. This time, this election commission planned to limit the number of voters in a booth to 1,000. It has obviously identified 33,797 additional polling stations, and there will be a correspondence increase of 1:1.8 lakhs polling personnel, etc. It's mandatory. While it will be applicable to the Bihar polls, the Elections Commission has expanded the ambit of postal ballot to COVID-19 positive voters and those who are over 65 years of age. But after that, Supreme Court backhold these decisions. And in Bihar, the facility will be available voters above 80 years. Then, people with disabilities, voter engaged essential service, and those who are COVID-19 positive on in precautionary quarantine, obviously. The decision to extend postal ballot to a newer categories in view of COVID-19 had been controversial. This political party calling in unconstitutional, arguing that it would enable the ruling side influence voters. The opposition also said that the commission did not consult them on the move. Like the voting experience, the campaign too will different. Obviously, Union Home Minister Amit Shah set the tone for virtual campaigning with his e-rally on June 9. We have seen his speech was live streamed at all polling booths in the states. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar of Bihar is set to launch his party's campaign through an online rally recently on August. However, there is a dispute in the opposition about the plans for elections in times of the pandemic. It is the Elections Commission to ensure safe elections during the pandemic, said Bihar Congress President Madan Mohan Jha. And if it can assure that no person will get infected because of election, we have no problem, said by the Congress President Madan Mohan Jha from Bihar. But the manner in which COVID-19 is spreading in Bihar is a matter of concern, and it is the appearance that it will not end soon. Can any elections be more important than the lives of people? Said Congress spokesman from Bihar. And the opposition has reason to be concerned. The BJP has made a strong early start. It has put in place 9,500 IT cell and started 72,000 booth level WhatsApp group. State BJP leader Prem Ranjan Patel ravished the opposition's claim that the online campaign would favor the cash-rich parties. He said it was a cost-effective methods of getting the message across. We do not have to get crowds for rallies, no helicopter, stage, or other such agreement. or arrangement, he said. But Jayjit Bhattacharya, President Center of Digital Economy Policy Research, said an online campaign could lead to an uneven playing field. A digital campaign is resource intensive. He said it requires the best of brains to be able to shift through data and create digital campaigners that decisively owns into a target voters consciousness and converts the citizens into a favorable voters. Not all political parties will be able to garner such resources and place them into the service. However, Elections Commission said that it has a dedicated social media monitoring section to keep tabs on hate speech, unlawful contents, and fake news. In March 2019, platforms such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and their associations, the Internet and the Mobile Association of India, has submitted the voluntary code of ethics.
Aurithro,
Yeah.
excuse me, Aurithro.
Okay,
Just,
sir.
yeah, let's wrap.
Priority dedicated reporting mechanism for the Elections Commission and set up a mechanism for political advertisement to submit pre-certified advertisement issued by the media certifications and monitoring committee. Lastly, we have said that while there are many questions about the conducting elections during a pandemic, one thing is certain, it is a whole new test for the country's failed elections machinery. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Aurithro. Professor Aurithro Shu from Ganjoti College. And this was perhaps the only paper which was engaging with, in real term, with real politics. And it was a passionate paper and passionate presentation also. Thank you, Aurithro, once again. So far we are being left with two speakers. One is Mr. Jayanto Mondol from Birsa Munda Memorial College, Bankura. Another is Professor Shubir Ghosh from BHU, Banaras Hindu University. Are you available, sirs? Mr. Jayanto Mondol and Professor Shubir Ghosh. So far I can understand Mr. Shubir Ghosh joined initially into this session and then he was not connected. He left the meeting or something like that. And Jayanto Mondol also surfaced up in between when somebody else was presenting, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Jayanto Mondol and Professor Shubir Ghosh, are you available?
No, they are presently not available in the
In that
participant
case,
list.
let us proceed to wrap it up, isn't it?
Sir, I just wanted to tell you that Abhishek might not complete his paper.
Hmm.
So can
Did
we
he-
give him a chance?
Of course. Is he available online? Because we have a lot of time in our hand,
Yeah, Abhishek,
according to the stipulations.
Abhishek, are you here?
Abhishek Poddar
Okay.
from Presidency University.
Okay, Abhishek, go ahead.
He is there?
Yeah. In the name of Jiban Poddar ID.
Well, fine. Abhishek,
Okay,
please go on.
Abhishek, go ahead. Hello, Abhishek. Am I audible to you? If there is network problem, you can mute your video and you can unmute your audio and speak.
Abhishek, just unmute your audio and keep talking. No, the glitch is still there. Cannot listen to it.
Abhishek, we are not hearing you. You are not clearly audible.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Hello.
Hello.
হ্যাঁ শোনা যাচ্ছে।
Sir, should I start from the beginning or the?
Well, okay, of course, you can start from the beginning.
Okay. So, the spread of the COVID-19 has proved deadly, and this is a very challenging time for the union as well as the state government. In such a situation of crisis, journalism has a great role to play in a democracy, as it has been ideally visualized as a platform for objective information and critical rational discourse. Thus, the health of media in a country can be examined in this time of crisis. According to the famous German philosopher Habermas, the public sphere is a space where private individuals discuss public matters, a space which mediates between society and the state. The public sphere has a potential influence over power by forming a critical consensus which produces a coherent public opinion and by making the state accountable to its denizens. In the media theory, there is a long-running debate over the ways in which media not only disseminate elite but also influence the formation, expression, and consumption of public opinion. In a democracy, public involvement is an important issue, and the debate over political involvement and communication has recently focused on the notion of citizenship. And one aspect of this concern is with the notion of the public sphere. If the citizenry is to play a role in democracy, then it needs access to an institutionally guaranteed platform in which to express their opinions and to question established power. We can say that the media now constitutes the major forum for political communication. Thus, the debate about the public involvement of the citizens in political communication leads to the question about the media as a public sphere, the relation between established power and the citizenry takes place. Habermas argued that how the media developed over time, the public service ethos has been destroyed and replaced by a market model. He takes the media as creating a society of private and fragmented individuals for whom it is difficult to form the public rational critical opinion which could oppose established power. But he criticized media for providing a pseudo public sphere which is distracts the laity from political action, being a sphere of public relations and passive spectatorship rather than genuine public debate. However, his position contains an ideal of public communication which might generate the critical consensus which he considers necessary for public participation in democratic political process. There comes the important question: can the media potentially provide sites for public participation, expert accountability, or the integration of experts, etc.? Now, we should look into the role of media in this pandemic scenario and how they are performing their roles in the current state. The corporate power have the control over the most media bodies also means that they become an instrument of ideological apparatus of the state. There are many concerns associated with the COVID-19 crisis, like ill-equipped public health system, policies to combat the pandemic, and the lack of planning and support to the vulnerable sections. These issues demand serious examination, but the mainstream media seems to be forgetting its democratic role. Journalism is considered to be an ethical communicative practice in a democracy, but corporate ownership subverts the autonomy of journalism and the freedom of the disseminating factual and more nuanced information but these platforms do not have the vast access that big corporate media platforms are privy to. The government is also trying to control the media. The center sought a direction from the Supreme Court on 31st March that no electronic, print media, web portal, or social media shall print or publish or telecast anything without first ascertaining the true factual position from the separate mechanism provided by the central government. These corporate media houses are working more as tools of spreading propaganda and sensationalism. There are number of media channels which continuously trying to manipulate public opinion in favor of particular political parties or the government. Even in the sudden announcement of the lockdown,
The connection again gone. I think there has been a continuous connection problem with Abhishek's handset, and that is why he is unable to finish his presentation. Let us do
three debates. Whereas on the other hand, on Indian economy, there was no debate at all. Also on the issue of unemployment, education, healthcare, public infrastructure, even farmers issues, poverty, women safety, environment, mob lynching, there is no debate on these topics at all, which clearly shows the kind of character of our media houses right now. At the end, I can say the media has achieved phenomenal growth during the last 3 decades, and India has become the one of the biggest media markets in the world. The alliance between the dominant religious fundamentalism and neoliberalism has shifted. Profit, the promotion of majoritarian views, and the exclusion of marginalized voices have become its main features. But also, there is no way to deny it that there are other platforms, media platforms we have right now, like social media or the independent media channels. They are also trying to do their jobs in a right way. Thank you.
Yes, many thanks to Abhishek. At last he could finish this thing, and that is always very refreshing and good to listen to current students or somebody who has just passed from the university, etc., sharing their views.
Thank you.
Once again, thanks to everybody, all the participants and definitely the presenters. I always wanted, I myself always found it very boring and tedious when after listening to a lot of good papers in a session, in the seminar sessions, when the chairperson comes in or chips in with his views and a big paper produced or written by him already. And he presents that paper with in a pontifical manner, as if he knows everything in that sort of a manner. I found it always very boring and tedious. So therefore, with a purpose, I did not prepare any paper, and I was quite resolute on this issue that my presenters will be presenting their papers, but I am not going to present a paper. I can rather, if time permits, I can rather chip in with some of my views, cynic views, and nothing more than that. As time is permitting, I would address one particular thing that has been bugging me, right from the beginning, whenever the time when this very seminar was being, that was being planned and programmed by the organizing committee, especially my vibrant colleagues from Department of History and Department of Philosophy of Minority College. They always, they were very keen to keep a subtopic relating to pandemic, and literature. And that was the subtopic, and this is the subtopic which is being addressed, or with which we have tried to engage with in this particular session, this class session, the second day. The reason for which this particular subtopic has been a continuous bugging thing for me right from the beginning, right from the inception, was this that literature mostly deals with human cultural experiences. And by culture, of course, I am not definitely meaning or signifying the very word culture itself, but economic, social, political, civilizational, environmental, cultural, whatever be the experience level of the human beings in a society in a given time and space. Those experiences, their tech, their reactions, and their insights regarding those experiences do always gauge a kind of a formulated experience in any literature whatsoever under the sun, be it in English, be it in any other language, be it in Bengali, etc. And this is the reason for which I was very disturbed with the idea that when we are discussing pandemic through the light of literature, then first we have to problematize the word pandemic. Because if we don't problematize the word pandemic, and if we take it by its face value or by its market media value, then necessarily we step into a kind of a crisis spot. In this way, that human civilization in its right from the times immemorial has not yet witnessed any particular well formulated idea of pandemic whatsoever. We have not, in any part of the world, we have not still, without this pandemic, before this pandemic, we have never encountered any experience called an pandemic experience. So if we simply let go of the word without problematizing the word, without redefining the word, without relocating the word, without reinventing the word, we cannot directly address pandemic with references from our existing literature. What we have already encountered and experienced in our national life basis or social life basis are at the most either epidemics or sometimes metademics, but never pandemics. Pan is a Latin word and Latin prefix rather, which has been put to the word demic. Pan means all. Now, being a kind of an all-consuming epidemic, this is not an epidemic, this is something bigger than that. Being an all-consuming epidemic, which is absolutely oriented around a particular disease and giving us always, or putting us always on the brink of death, threatening us with the risks of death and mass extinction and etc. etc. It is basically, the word basically breaks the barrier of understanding a word in terms of space and time. The moment something becomes a pandemic, I'm not sure whether you can follow me or not. Anything, whatever becomes a pandemic, that basically breaks the membrane of, breaks the parameters of space and time. First, it breaks the space because once it is a pandemic, it is applicable to the experiences of Chotanagpur, it is applicable to the experiences of Mumbai, it is applicable to the experiences of this Jalpaiguri and Mainaguri, etc. As well, this is equally applicable to the experiences of somebody living in Minnesota, somebody living in Antigua, somebody living in any part of the world or in any continent. This does not know any space barrier. All epidemics, whatever we have so far encountered or experienced, we have come across, all epidemics in human history had spatial boundaries, locational boundaries. This is the only thing that basically broke away any kind of locational boundary. There is no locational boundary. We are as much panicked and as much scared and as much affected as the person in Italy, as the person in America, or as the person in England, or as the person in Johannesburg to some extent. There is, of course, there is a difference in degree, but there is no difference in the kind of fear, in the kind of panic, and in the kind of suffering that we are having. So pandemic is something which is very much, this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, is perhaps the first global situation which is really shaking our very understanding of the global only in terms of, and specifically in terms of the economy. Rather, we are culturally, philosophically, and also literally globally shaken and globally threatened for the first time in history, in human history. Famines, যাকে আমরা মন্বন্তর বলছি, epidemics, যাকে আমরা মহামারী বলছি, are never equal or equivalent or in any way serve as signifiers to this very word pandemic. Pandemic is something kind of an all-consuming experience. And that is why we always thought that pandemic experiences, if we have to address it from the academic point of view, from the literary point of view, from the academic investments into the field of literature or expression, so to say, we have to approach it more on a theoretical basis, more on a quasi-philosophical basis, if not totally philosophical, and then on a regular, practice-oriented citation basis. Because whatever we are finding out, whatever experiences we are finding out, extend in our literary pieces, in the novels and the short stories and the plays and etc., to always have a kind of an escape point ready in them. If we go to the novels of Sharat Chandra, we see that there are references to some Olauta Rog or something like that, a disease which was basically, killing villages and peoples, multitudes of peoples in villages after villages in some parts of Bengal. Now, one escape route was already there in that story, that if you escape the village itself which is being affected by that disease, then it will escape the disease also. What is true for us, Olauta affected village in Bengal might not be true for Olauta not affected Mumbai or the cosmopolitan sector. But these differences between cosmopolis, metropolis, and this local polis, the membrane of the local and the global, all are being severely challenged and severely shaken by this very word called pandemic. In this way, this pandemic thing is basically leaving us with a no escape zone. We cannot say, in all the cases in popular literature, we find out that there was a very soft trend everywhere, especially in the Bengali literature also, and also in the Hindi literature of Premchand, and also in the romantic literature, as somebody was, Shantan Pal perhaps was talking about romantic literature and return to nature and etc. etc. Even in Keats's case also, he mentioned Keats. Keats's case also, this was a particular term which in its Bengali version, in its Hindi version, and also in English version is applicable to these places. That if somebody is suffering from a particular disease, as this was suffering from tuberculosis or consumption, as in Premchand's story, we come across some famine and etc. etc. As in Sharat Chandra's story or in Kushoni Shanket, we come across these kinds of disease-oriented famine ramifications. We always see that somebody is being given a chance for a hawa bodol, a change in the air, because they can't always go from the north to the south, or they can afford to go from east to the west to avoid the kind of which were being persisting in their location where they were stuck to. Or they can at least go to recover their health in a better atmospheric zone than from the zone in which they were there. That is applicable for Keats too. Keats was being advised by his doctor friends to go over to southern Italy because England is much cooler in temperature than Italy. So consumption becomes rapid and uncontrollable in the cold temperature, and that is always better controllable than better manageable in the warm temperature. So southern Italy was offering them with warm temperature zones and places, and its head was given a kind of an escape route that if I can escape from England, I can go to Italy and perhaps I can leave. That's a different thing that he did not leave. But that was the kind of a mental hope point, a point of hope which was always there, somewhere hanging around the corner of an idea of an epidemic, idea of a disease, idea of the famine. But around the corner of the idea of a pandemic, there is no such point of hope which is somehow lingering, just like the last drop of milk lingering on the udder of a female cow. This is the famous image used by Kamala Das in one of her poems. There is no lingering hope for this pandemic thing. And as long as my understanding of the whole thing goes, is that the pandemic has basically challenged us on 4 different levels. I just wrote 4 points. I do not know. This is merely a food for thought. You perhaps are already acquainted with these thoughts. You are the bright presenters of the papers, and all of you, whoever are not presenting but yet participating into the seminar, I can always appreciate your keen interest into finding out a kind of an academic and epistemic knowledge of this pandemic. So, keeping in mind in all these investigative and analytical, research orientation of all of you, I can harp on 4 points which I wrote over here, which might provide some food for thought, or might provide some food, some cue to your future presentations regarding this pandemic and literary issues. The first thing is what this pandemic has done. The pandemic has triggered us to see things which we were not engaging beforehand, prior to this pandemic. The first one is we have witnessed a journey of the high and the middle class from a high tide of commodity fetish to a delirium of engineered panic. This is absolutely an engineered panic by the media houses or the media corporate houses, or the media of the corporate houses, because I'm not telling that COVID-19 is easily fightable. No, that is not the point. But the panic is something. The panic which is being created, that is created at class level. Why this is being created on a class level? And then comes my second point. You will see that we are panicked. The middle class, the high middle class, and the higher class. But the lower class people, the people of the lower income group, they are not being given this chance to be panicked only with that, to be panicky only with the disease. They are more panicked with something else. And there comes the second point, that we have been forced to fill a potential but palimpsestic presence of a lower income group caught in the irresolvable dilemma between 2 choices. The lower income group people, the low income group people of India especially, are being given 2 choices. And what is this choice? They are not given the choice of being panicky and keeping at home. Rather, they are being given a choice between 2 deaths, a death by disease and a death by hunger. Now, they are naturally, any human being whatsoever will opt for death by disease rather than a death by hunger. They are not given the chance to be panicked. It is absolutely us who are the consumers, absolutely affected by another pandemic virus named as commodity fetish. We are the target people of this corporate sector, of this neoliberal market capitalism, that we have to leave, because if we leave, we will consume. And if we consume, then their market leaves. But the other people, from 65 to 70% of the Indian people, who are living a palimpsestic life, we are unseen by us. And the people who does not have any guaranteed income, they are simply being given a choice between 2 deaths, a death by disease and a death by hunger. This is very bad. The third thing is, we are faced with questions penetrating the known territorialities of the local and the global. What is a local and what is a global? That should be redefined now. This is a time for rethinking. And the last one is, of course, we are now brought to some sense at least in seeking sustainable solutions in respect of the erupting economic, social, political, and civil crisis by shifting gears of our solution seeking, of course, কি কোন পথে আসবে আমাদের সলিউশন সমাধান এটা ভাবার ক্ষেত্রে এখন this is high time আমাদেরকে ভাবতে হবে that we have to shift our gear from the epistemic to the ontic issues জ্ঞানতাত্ত্বিক প্রবণতা থেকে এখন অনেক বেশি পরিমাণে জীবনতাত্ত্বিক প্রবণতায় ফেরাটা দরকার যে জীবন ম্যাটার করে যেখানে শেখানো হয় যেটা শিখিয়েছে লিটারেচার বারবার করে রবীন্দ্রনাথের নাম এসছে এখানে টেগোরস নেম has been referred to here is being cited to here by Ononna and by some other people also. We have to get back to that notion of Tagore and say that পশ্চাতে রেখেছো যারে সে তোমার পশ্চাতে টানছে. This is a different notion of inclusive living that we have to imbibe, that we have to be educated in. So far, we have been living our private lives, excluding ourselves from the community. Now we have to learn to live our life more in terms of the community, more with the community, living the private back into our home and becoming the public more in a communal sense. Communal means I am not talking about Hindu, Muslim, or any communal thing. Communal means commune oriented, como, clan. This is a collective living that I am talking of. And in this collection, I should understand the differentiation between the self and the other is to be first abolished. আত্ম আর অপরের মধ্যে যদি বিস্তারটাকে আমরা কমাতে না পারি, if the opposite does not become atto, if the other does not become the self or an extension of the self, then perhaps we shall not be able to combat with this pandemic. Whatever literature teaches us is basically this ethical issue and nothing more than that. Literature has never dealt with pandemics in a direct manner. This is for the first time, but literature has always come up with answers whenever human civilization were being challenged by big crises and big threats. This was a big threat, and we have to always go for a collective answer. আমাদের সকলের হাতে হাত দিয়ে যদি দাঁড়াতে পারি একমাত্র তাহলেই আমাদের পক্ষে কমব্যাট করা সম্ভব. Thank you very much for bearing with this gibberish talk of mine at the end of the big session and the good session, and it was my privilege to listen to you all. All of your papers were very good, but there are always, you know it better than me that there are always possibilities to develop on whatever we are today. Wish you all very, success in your lives, in your academic lives and pursuits. Thank you very much. Over to Shudi.
Thank you, Dr. Rajdipta Rai. On behalf of Mainaguri College and Porimal Mitra Sriti Mahavidyalaya, Malbazar, I would like to thank Dr. Rajdipta Rai for his valuable words about pandemic. It was really thought-provoking and really nice to hear from you. I would like to thank all the paper presenters who have presented their papers for the effort they are put in their papers. Thank you, all of you, and all the other participants who have participated in this particular technical session. Thank you very much from the heart of the Moinaguri College and Porimal Mitra Sriti Mahavidyalaya, Malbazar. Thank you all. We will meet again at 5 p.m. in our valedictory session, where we would like to give the feedback links of paper presenters and participants. Thank you all. Now this session is over. If there is any question, you may ask in the chat box, or if not, then we will conclude now. Mr. Sujan Saha, are you available? Sujan Saha, are you available here?
No, he has left perhaps, and there is a question, a very interesting one.
Yeah.
Well, it is understood that whatever be one's
Hello.
personal view
Sorry
is
to
not of
interrupt you,
academic
sir.
interest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
the question is a good one.
Hello.
Mr. Sujan Shah, can we seriously characterize the role of the communists by simply saying that they were supporting the British at the time of famine? Kaushik Paul. Of course, that's a good question, but I take it on behalf of Sujan Shah that it is absolutely his view, perhaps not that much academically supported. Thank you. Anything else?
No, there is no other questions.
So we can
So,
wrap up this section.
okay. Goodbye
you.
to everybody. Thank you all, and special thanks to Dr. Rajdip Rai. Thank you.